USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Tap the banner to learn more and get a quote at usaa.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.
This episode is brought to you by Stouffer's. Here comes three-time juggling champion Natalia Rogers. She's juggling law school, her TA job. Oh, narrowly catches the laundry. What's that fourth ball? Parents unexpectedly showed up at dinner time? Is that too much for Natalia? Not with Stouffer's Chicken Alfredo and its mouth-watering mix of Asiago, Romano, and Parmesan. When you're juggling four things at once and the clock strikes dinner, think Stouffer's.
All you heroes, hawks, crows, rooks, and inquisitors. Welcome to the Dragon Age Lorecast, where we unpack, discuss, and theorize about all the lore behind the Dragon Age series.
We are so excited to bring you this podcast. Every episode will be covering a different topic in the Dragon Age universe, from character deep dives to exalted marches and elven gods. We'll cover it all.
There will be spoilers. And always remember, swooping is bad.
Hello and welcome to the Dragon Age Lorecast, where we talk about Dragon Age and its lore, and I'm one of your hosts, Austin, also known as Teacup.
And I'm your other host, Shelby or Shecup.
That you are, and we are here to talk about Dragon Age, and we're so excited. We are continuing our journey through Tevinter, isn't that right, Shelby?
That is right. We are almost done. We're going to get up to the present day in terms of Archons. And then we'll have one more Archon episode because we have a bunch that are like non-chronological. So we're actually almost done with Tevinter.
Oh, that's exciting in its own way, meaning we're making our way through it.
I'm excited to look at some other places.
Me too. But let's finish Tevinter strong.
Okay, so today we are going to get started with some fun facts.
As always.
And I'm just going to jump right in because we've only got a couple fun facts. And so the first one is that one of the Archons we'll be covering today shares a name with a very famous Roman emperor, Vespasian. This Roman emperor ruled from the years 69 to 79 AD. And just like in real life, the Archon oversaw some important stuff, did some important things. And so just like that, the real life Vespasian oversaw some important stuff as well, like the invasion of Britannia, the British Isles, the war with Judea, and the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem in 70 AD, and much more. These are, you might think, okay, that's random. Why does that matter? Those are like some of the most pivotal events in history, like of all time. So like that, it's an important era.
It is a very important era. And like things that seem small in the moment, but like have like catalytic events for setting up Europe and how it's going to be for the next 2,000 years.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll put a pin in that before you can see what the Dragon Age Vespasian does. Which is not quite as monumental. But my other fun fact is that Archon Radonus, who is one of the most recent Archons, apparently has a very soft spot for kittens.
I feel like the tracks.
Yeah, I don't know why, but it does track for me too.
Maybe it's because like Tevinter just shares a lot with like a lot of ancient empires, and so maybe like we're equating like the Egyptian Empire and their love of cats to that. Maybe that's the vibe.
It's either that or we just already knew the information from one of the comics that we've looked at, and it like left our brain but remained there.
Oh, that's probably true.
So let's just go ahead and dive right into our first Archon, who is Orentius. And he is the successor to Archon Hessarian. And that is all we know about him.
All right. You know, this is like a theme in history too, where like you have this like super pivotal, monumental, great ruler, and the rulers before and after them are...
You know nothing about them, or they've been forgotten by history.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, look at how much do we really know about Andrew Johnson compared to Abraham Lincoln?
Or do you even know who was the president before Abraham Lincoln?
I don't remember it off the top of my
James
head.
Buchanan.
Oh, I did know that. Again, John Adams. You know,
he's sandwiched between two.
Right. So there's a lot of examples of this, but moving right along to the next Archon we can place in the timeline is Archon Therion. Now, Therion is important because he gave a replica of Hessarian's Blade of Mercy, the one that killed Andraste, to his general, Lord Galenius. He did so in thanks and respect for Galenius' leadership during battles at the height of the Second Blight. This occurs in 2-2 Glory, and the Second Blight had ended in 195, so about like 7 years before. The reason why this is notable is because it really starts two trends in Tevinter. Number one, of Archons giving gifts to their allies in general, which is kind of seen now as a badge of honor throughout the Imperium. And secondly, and more importantly, creating replicas of the Blade of Mercy. There are so many replicas of this sword out there. You can even find them in game. I think multiple games. I want to say 2 and Inquisition. So this is a trend that is going to continue from the Second Age all the way into the Dragon Age.
Yeah, definitely too, because it is a weapon that you can give to Fenris.
Okay. Yes, that's right. I knew it had something to do with him.
And it had a story thing, and there's like a big thing about like that this blade represents like the history of Tevinter turning from the old gods, and like there's a lot of like sentimental and like historical weight, like giving it to Fenris as a freed slave is like a point. But I can't remember the exact dialogue or the exact reasoning.
Okay, Dragon Age 2. We'll jot that down. So let's move on to Vespasian, as we mentioned in the fun facts. He ruled around the turn of the age from 299 Glory to the Towers Age. We're not really sure exactly much more about his reign, but what we do know is that he was assassinated on the exact same day that the Grand Cathedral of the Chantry in Orlais was completed.
That's like Thomas Jefferson and John Adams dying on the same day.
It's a big deal. I mean, I think it's more than that. It's like, I guess at this point they're not separate. There's still one chantry, but like there's already tension there. There's already the theological, foundational shift within the religion, and so it's in my opinion, this is like one more brick to break that foundation. And I think we can even raise the question of, did Orlesians have him assassinated?
It's possible. We'll never know.
We won't, but I think it's interesting because like what is the likelihood that on the exact same day? I don't know. It just seems sketchy to me.
It is very sketchy. You think there's someone in Thetis with like a tinfoil hat, like charting on these things like Orlais killed this person? Yeah,
we found their house in the Veilguard. Remember, with all there's the string and the pictures of all the protagonists.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Yeah, that's them.
Okay.
Which I think also represents us, frankly. But
I also agree with that.
So the next one I have is Archon Hadarius, and he succeeded Vespasian and ruled through at least some part of the Towers Age. And, it's important to note that Vespasian's assassination apparently caused mass hysteria throughout the magisterium, and every magister was hiding behind walls of armored guards, and it was just a crazy time. And so Archon Hadarius, of course, he was among them. And when he was named Archon, the first enchanter of the Circle of Menrathus gave him a gift of a necklace made of silvery, unadorned lyrium. This chain was like holding a shield. It prevented all physical blows from hitting the wearer. It did not, however, protect the wearer from non-physical attacks, such as poison. And so, as you might expect, Hadarius was assassinated via poison in an unknown year. We're not sure exactly when. Additionally, the Ring of the Archon, the Ring of the Ferryman, which we've discussed before on the podcast, is created special and unique for every Archon and is supposed to be destroyed upon their death. However, Hadarius's Ring of the Ferryman was found in Kirkwall in Dragon Age 2. It's unclear if this is the real version or if it's simply a forgery. It does cost a little over 100 gold, which, if it's the real one, seems low, but that's just me.
That does seem low. Yeah, because 10 gold is $10. If we're talking about general buy, or
is it?
Or I think 1 gold is $10.
Okay, that makes more sense. Because I was don't you have to get 100 gold to go on Varric's expedition?
Yeah, or it's something like 10 of the bronze or copper gets you to 1 of the silver, and 10 of the silver gets you to 1 of the gold.
Yeah.
So maybe it's $100 is 1 gold.
I don't know.
I don't know. They abandoned that in Dragon Age Inquisition anyway.
We don't have to deal with it anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah. Also, I love the legalism and thing of this will protect you from physical attacks. You don't die from a physical attack.
Right. Well, I think it's more to the point of when you have a weapon, or no, it's not a weapon, when you have some kind of protective something like that, it's very, very easy to think, oh, well, this thing protects me, and so I don't have to worry about that. And so then you take risks that you wouldn't otherwise take because you've become arrogant.
Yes, exactly.
Which is the tale of Tevinter.
Mm-hmm. It
frankly.
really is. Hubris is the fall of many an empire.
I would venture to say hubris is the fall of every empire, but that's just me. So the next Archon we have is Nomaran, and we're going to skip about 400 years to him. And he was elected in 734 Storm. The Codex states that he was, quote, elected directly from the ranks of the enchanters, which suggests to me that he was not named as the previous Archon's heir or apprentice, and as such, the Magisterium had to come together to vote on the new Archon. However, it is said that his election was, quote, greeted with great applause among the peoples of Tevinter. But his reign was also criticized from people outside of Tevinter, claiming that his rise to power saw mages regain open political power once more in Tevinter, and was really a return to the days of the magisters of old. Now, this is interesting to me because according to what we know in the lore, we've never had a non-mage Archon. The only lowborn mage, Tadarion, caused a civil war upon his accession to the throne. So I can't imagine how the country, Tevinter in general, would react to a non-mage, but that's what this codex entry seems to imply to me. What do you think?
I think I agree with that in the sense of I wonder if it's because he is elected from the ranks of the enchanters, And so it's not like a political family of the Magisters that are going, but it's just like it's probably like a child of a Magister. So probably from the Altus class. And it's someone who came up and the Magisters picked it. The Archon did not name an heir. It's the seat of the magisterium that does it. So I wonder if that is the cause of these people being like, oh, this is a return of the Tevinter of old.
That is a great explanation for it. I think that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot more sense to me than a non-mage Archon. Because again, there's no way. All right, so we've got one more before we go to our mid-break, and this one is Archon Davin or Davin. I don't think we actually know how to pronounce it, but we're going to skip, again, 200 years to the Dragon Age. And we know virtually nothing about Archon Davin, only that he is Radonus' predecessor, and that he is the one that gave Aurelian Titus a seat in the magisterium. And we also know that he was assassinated in 929 Dragon.
So right after the events or right before Dragon Age Origins.
Right, yes. Yeah, you sense a theme here, right? Like almost every single Archon that we've discussed today has been assassinated. Actually, I think every single one that we've discussed today has been assassinated. Very few Archons live to old age.
I mean, very few Roman emperors died of old age.
That's true. That is also true.
Julius Caesar kind of started a trend.
Yeah. Well, when it's everyone, is it a trend? Or is it just status quo?
I guess that's true.
All right. Well, I think now is a great time for our mid-break.
All right.
LinkedIn is pretty great at a lot of things, like helping you tap into the latest trends and insights in your field. We cannot stop your coworker from tapping her pencil. LinkedIn can help you find new jobs that align with your career goals. We cannot help you find the source of that weird smell in the office fridge. Ew. And while we can't stop your coworkers from bringing their hobbies into the office, LinkedIn can help you bring your career to the next level. LinkedIn is the network that works for you.
This episode is brought to you by Redfin. You're listening to a podcast, which means you're probably multitasking. Maybe even scrolling home listings on Redfin, saving homes without expecting to get them. But Redfin isn't just built for endless browsing. It's built to help you find and own a home. With agents who close twice as many deals, when you find the one, you've got a real shot at getting it. Get started at redfin.com. Own the dream.
Hey, it's Sterling K. Brown from the Hulu original series Paradise. The next chapter begins as Xavier's search for his wife takes him above ground, and what he finds will change everything. It was never just about the bunker. Tune in and discover the truth lies outside. Paradise, the official podcast, is now streaming, and stream Paradise on Hulu and Hulu on Disney+.
I've got this nefarious plan to go around to each of them and secretly tell them all the nasty things you said. That way they'll mutiny and I shall become the group leader.
You know, we have more comfortable rooms and basically infinite space, so why
does the trained assassin prefer a quiet, unassuming spot with good choke points?
Guess you just answered that question.
Besides, I'm closer to the coffee.
Just wondering if the feathered pauldrons are an essential part of the moody rebel mage persona.
What are you talking about?
I'm working on an epic poem about a hopelessly romantic apostate, waging an epic struggle against forces he can't possibly defeat.
What do you mean, can't possibly defeat?
Well, it's not a good story unless the hero dies.
All right, welcome to the middle of the show where we take time to talk about things going on with the podcast that don't have to do with the lore of Dragon Age. And it's here where we thank our patrons. Thank you to all of our patrons, especially our first patrons, Lisa M. and Genesis. And thank you so much for all your support. If you'd like to support us, you can do so at patreon.com/DALorecast. Another great way to support us is to leave us ratings and reviews on Apple or Spotify. If you leave us 5 stars and some kind words, we will read it out on a future episode of the show. And so I do have a Spotify comment to read today. This comes from Maddie, and Maddie says, I loved this episode talking about our Blackwall Tom Renier character deep dive. I love this episode. Blackwall has been my favorite character to romance ever since I got into this game years ago. No matter what, I always choose him for his complex backstory, the nuance of his guilt and shame, and how he tries to be a better man. You both did an amazing job discussing him. Thank you so much. You guys rock. Thank you so much for that kind comment, Maddie. We are so glad that you love Blackwall and you enjoyed that episode. And we love these games and love talking about these characters. So thank you so much. The last thing I have for you is join our Discord. Come join the Cups Podcasting and More Discord. You can do so by following the link in the episode description. Come hang out with us, talk about Dragon Age, talk about Assassin's Creed, talk on the internet. It's a great place to hang out. And with that, that's all I have for the middle of the show.
All right, let's get back into it.
Instagram teen accounts have automatic protections for what teens see and who can contact them, plus time management tools. And Instagram will continue adding built-in safety features to help create age-appropriate experiences. Learn more about teen accounts and Instagram's ongoing work to protect teens online at instagram.com/teenaccounts.
TaxAct filing software and live tax experts can help small businesses easily knock out their taxes. Actually, our experts can help you find deductions and credits for any sized business. Itty-bitty businesses, medium-sized, really big, mid-sized, small businesses, companies with 0 employees, and mom-and-pop conglomerates. Yep, our tax experts can help all of them. TaxAct. Let's get them over with.
My people have heard legends of the Grey Warden's strength and skill. Though I suppose not every legend is true.
That's really helpful. What are you, the elven god of sarcasm?
Lies, treachery, and rebellion, depending upon the story. And how could I help? I do not have my ritual dagger. I cannot access my network of mirrors to travel from the lighthouse to anywhere in the world. All I can offer is what I know.
Helpful advice from the elven god of, and I am quoting you here, lies, treachery, and rebellion.
Depending on the story.
You fear barbarians will swoop down upon you.
Yes, swooping is bad.
All right, so let's get into Rhodonis, who we know quite a bit about. He is the Archon from 929 Dragon to 952 Dragon. And so he rules pretty much most of the entirety of the games. We see him in the comics, and above all things, he is portrayed as an Archon who is cunning and well-versed in the political arena. He is not ever portrayed as completely evil. He is not this like fantastical villain like Corypheus who just wants to see the world burn. He is a more complicated character. And while he is, he does cut an imposing figure, he always does something that's a little bit surprising. So let's get into where we've seen Rhodonis. We first see him in the comic Mage Killer. Rhodonis is aware of both Tessa, Forsythia, and Marius, and he lures them back to Tevinter unbeknownst to them. And that's when they find themselves surrounded by a cohort of Altus mages and Rhodonis himself, who declares that, okay, you're going to go kill somebody for me now. He has discovered the Venatori's intentions and wants to prevent them from rising up, from gaining more members, as he fears that a return to, quote, old Tevinter will risk another Exalted March and possibly even another Qunari invasion. And so he does kind of walk this line of like, I want to push back on the Venatori, and at the same time he recognizes that there are several senior Venatori, in fact most of the senior Venatori, who are Altus Magisters of considerable standing. And so if he does this publicly, he very much risks inciting an uprising, especially if he strikes at them directly and publicly. And so that's why he's enlisted Marius and Tessa to kill them, so that the Venatori threat can be neutralized while also leaving zero evidence that leads back to Rhodonis. 3 of the 4 targets are assassinated successfully. However, the 4th target is Calpurnia, and Marius refuses to kill her because they were once lovers. And so he and Tessa flee the Imperium with Venatori aid, actually, because of Calpurnia. And so Rhodonis, like throughout the rest of the comics, is sending multiple teams of assassins to kind of like murder them in retaliation. And then he kind of gives up because they become part of the Inquisition.
Mm-hmm. Man, can you imagine evading the Archon of Tevinter's assassins so much that he's just like, you earned it.
Right. Well, I think part of it is like, it's not worth it now that they're affiliated with the Inquisition. But I can't imagine, because in the comic, they're like leaving Tevinter and they're like, okay, we can never come back. And Tessa, I think, is actually Navaran by birth. But they both are like fully aware, like, okay, we're never going to get to go back to Tevinter ever again. And then they join the Inquisition, and then the Archon's like, okay, well, I'm done with this. And they're like, oh, wait, maybe we can go back. And so like just that up and down, that roller coaster, I can't imagine that ride.
I know. I remember reading it when we did that in the book club. And like, if you want more information, you go listen to our comic episodes on the book club. But it was just like, oh my gosh, like, are they ever going to be able to stop?
Right.
But they eventually get to the Inquisition.
So we also see Rhodonis in Inquisition, not physically, but like we have interactions with him. And that's because he asks the Inquisition for help. And specifically, he wants help to remove a Venatori cohort that's operating in Navarra. The King of Navarra asks the same thing. Each wants the Inquisition to do it for them. You can choose to help either, but a human Inquisitor can help, can use like Trevelyan background connections to keep both happy. And then if you ask Josephine Montilier for her opinion, she will say that helping Rhodonis will be more rewarding because gaining the favor of the Tevinter Imperium is difficult, and because King Marcus's age and poor health means that he will likely die and leave the throne of Navarra to his heirs soon. Interestingly enough, we know from Veilguard, like, Marcus is dead. He's being propped up by the Mortalitasi, and by the time of the Veilguard, Rhodonis has been assassinated. So it's kind of like, well, everything Josephine said, the opposite is true.
Right, exactly. But Josephine doesn't know that.
No, of course not. That's our hindsight is 2020 glasses. But the last thing I want to say about Inquisition with Rhodonis is that she also mentions he opposes Corypheus because the Darkspawn Magister represents a threat to his power, not because the Darkspawn Magister is allied with the Venatori or is like a whole abomination in general or anything like that. I just think it's a really interesting lens that she's looking at him through there.
Right, I'm sure that there are several Magisters within the Magisterium who might not like openly support the Venatori, but like if there is ever an inkling that like they're gonna hold more power and sway than Rhodonis, they're gonna flock over to them.
Oh, 100%. I think we see that in Veilguard.
We do.
Okay, so lastly about Rhodonis, he is assassinated during the Veilguard when Gilanane's blighted dragon attacks the city of Minrathous. His named successor was his nephew, but the nephew has since fled to Navarra and refuses to come back, according to ambient dialogue in Docktown. And so
this happens regardless of choice.
Yes. Yeah, and so, he dies, and Elgernon and the Venatori take over for a little bit, and then we get to decide what happens next.
Yes.
And that's where I'm going to pause for a second and just say, I don't know if anybody cares still about spoilers for the Veilguard, but some heavy spoilers are coming up right now after this. Specifically about one of the most impactful choices that we can make in the game. So if you don't want to hear that, now is your opportunity to turn the show off. All right. So, depending on your choices in the Veilguard, either Magister Dorian Pavus or Magister Maevaris Talani will become Archon after the Battle of Minrathous. Dorian favors aggressive and decisive action, abolishing slavery immediately and hunting down those who sided with Elgernon and the enemies of the Shadow Dragons, whereas Maevaris prefers a more slow end to the inequalities of Tevinter. She is very much seen as the safer choice, while Dorian is viewed as a wild card. And now, here's where the choice comes into play. If you save Minrathous instead of Treviso in the first choice of the game, you will get to choose between the two. However, if you choose Treviso, Dorian automatically becomes Archon. And that's what happened in my game. I didn't even realize there was a choice until, like, I think you were probably on your second playthrough. And you were like, oh, I'm going to do this time. I was like, wait, what are you talking about? But anyway, so if Maevaris becomes Archon, she is the first female Archon, at least that we know of. I would venture to guess, yes, she is the first female Archon. Just because I feel like they would make a big deal about it in the Codex if we had one. But we don't have that information. So I'm going with, if she becomes Archon, she's the first female Archon.
Well, Tevinter is like so anti like Orlais, and so much of Orlais is matriarchal in leadership with the divine, and there's been several empresses and other things like that. So it makes sense a little bit in that.
Yeah, I agree. And it's not even that I think... I have a lot of things to say. I have a lot of thoughts about the topic of a matriarchy, because like when we say the word matriarchy, people think, oh, the opposite of a patriarchy. So like women being in charge and oppressing men and like torturing and being cruel to men the way that men are to women, right? But we've never like really had that truly in a society ever. That a matriarchy like that doesn't really exist in history. And so in Dragon Age, the same thing is true. Like they say Orlais is a matriarchy, or at least the Chantry is, but it's like not. Like there's still tons of male leadership. Draken is like the first emperor, and like he's a man, clearly. And so for me, I don't think that Tevinter inherently is patriarchal. I think Tevinter cares about the lineage more than anything, and not necessarily like because of the man or because of the woman. They just like prioritize having that genealogy. And so if anything, they're classist and homophobic, but I wouldn't go so far as to say that they are a patriarchy.
Right. And they wouldn't like... It's so interesting because like their homophobia is only within the nobility, because it's obsessed with that lineage and everything like
the
that.
Common people don't care.
Like you could have common people can screw whoever they want as far as the magisters are concerned anyways.
Yeah. It is a very interesting dichotomy. But anyway, all of that to say, Maevaris is the first female Archon.
What do you think? Who's better?
It's a hard question, right? Because on one hand, like I'm love to see the burn it down, Dorian, like burn it to the studs, like make it rubble, right those wrongs, fix those injustices. But at the same time, I'm practical, and I'm a pragmatist, realist at my core, and so I know that like while Dorian is going to get in there and he's going to burn all that down, he's going to face so much resistance along the way that it's going to break him. And if he doesn't, and he actually does get in there and like actually revolutionizes stuff, well, they're probably just going to assassinate him, and then the next one is going to build it back up the same way it's always been. And so I personally do think it's more productive to take that long approach, to kind of take the 50-year view instead of the let's do everything right now, because you can actually, I think, make more of a difference when it's over that long period of time. However, the challenge there is, of course, A, retaining your power, and B, not becoming sucked into the system yourself.
Right. I read this, and this is more of a Dorian conversation, but like, I find that I'm not surprised Dorian is burn it all down and all of that stuff. I just wish that we could have seen a little more of like his journey to get there, because it is quite a jump from where we end him in Inquisition after he is like, we're going to go and reform this. And like, we know that like his and Maevaris's like little faction fails and all of that. Like, I want to know, like, I want that journey of Dorian to like see how he gets to that point. I don't think it's surprising that he does get to that point. But if you had asked me before the Veilguard and before all of this, which one would be which other way,
They'd be swapped.
I would have swapped them.
Me too. I agree completely with that. But I also think I have a lot of thoughts. Number one, it's a logical jump for Dorian to get there, because like he's already evolved over the course of Inquisition from but slavery's not that bad, like we take care of our slaves in the beginning, to hey, no, slavery's wrong and we need to abolish it. That in and of itself is a huge shift. And so Dorian needs his flowers for that. But I think it makes sense that he would then go on to continue evolving in that way. But on the same time, I'm also glad like they didn't fall into the trope of making like, okay, the trans character is going to be the one that's like the angry revolutionary, like she's the one that, you know, is impatient and she's just an angry feminist. Like, I'm glad that they didn't go that route, because that is like a tired trope in my opinion. So pros and cons.
Right. And I mean, our first introduction to Dorian in this game is him walking in and being like, you know, the first warden is like, we wardens are never wrong. We have tied and trusted tradition. And Dorian comes in and is like, 940 Dragon, Adamant Fortress.
I know. I love him so much.
Yeah. But yeah, I think either of them are probably fine for Tevinter. I mean, it's been how much of the old guard is actually left to even resist any kind of change and rebuild?
I mean, I hear you on one hand, and then on another hand, I'm like, well, the old guard have children who have then instilled their same values in their children.
True.
Just the same as, you know, the people of our society instill their racism and their terrible views in their children, and it continues on. So I don't know. I think that will be an eternal struggle in Tevinter.
Yeah, probably true. But I think it's time to move on to our side character.
Yeah. So again, we're going into a Veilguard character. I just thought it was appropriate. We are talking about Magister Zara Renata, and she also appears in Tevinter Nights. She is a Magister, a member of the Venatori, and the lover of Ilario and the person who imprisoned Lucanus in the ossuary. So we first meet her in Tevinter Nights, where she is an associate of Ambrose Forfex, the wigmaker. We learn that she is extremely vain, shallow. She's fully inspecting her body daily for any blemishes, which she removes via blood magic at the expense of her slaves. Big eating disorder vibes for sure. None of her servants are allowed to be blemished either, and they all appear to be under the age of 35. At the end of the chapter, she vows vengeance upon Lucanus for his actions in the chapter. And so that's when we pick up in the Veilguard, where she is like never in Minrathous, and rumor has it she has an imposter to sit in magisterium meetings for her. Nev Gallus suspects that she wants the glamour of power without the boredom of it. And allegedly, Zara also used to sponsor magical research in Minrathous, but this stops abruptly by 952 Dragon. And so something happens in 952. By the time of the Veilguard, she has transformed the ossuary into a prison for her test subjects. And I think that we can hypothesize that this is what kind of takes her away from Enrathus, takes her away from this research. She's found a way to do it in secret and do all the crazy shit she really wants to do without anybody criticizing her for it. So she actually, for the ossuary, gained inspiration from the Order of Fiery Promise and inserted spirits into prisoners, which is how Lucanus got Spite. And so when Lucanus and the Veilguard return to Treviso, they discover that Zara has attacked the Cantori Diamond. Ilario states that Caterina, their grandmother, was presumed dead in the confusion. I don't want to get fully into the side quests in the Veilguard, but let's suffice it to say that Ilario is found a few times where it's rumored that Zara would be. Ultimately, the party will come across Zara in a pool of blood, which she's been using to stay young. As you defeat her, she is revealed to be a very old woman. In fact, you could say an ancient crone. Ilario then appears, surprising her. She calls him Amatus, which we know from Dorian's romance in Inquisition is a term of affection for a lover, which tells me that they are fucking. And ultimately you kill her. And that's kind of where her story ends. But I do want to just bring in one additional point, in that there is a connection to the real world here in this story. Zara bathes in blood and uses blood magic to make herself appear younger. This use of a bloodbath is probably a reference to Countess Elizabeth Bathory, a 16th century Hungarian aristocrat who was accused of witchcraft and of bathing in the blood of young virgins to maintain her beauty.
Do you also think that this is a reference to Melisandre from Game of Thrones? That she like appears as this young, beautiful woman, but like there's really like kind of like nefarious magic.
Maybe.
Because she uses like the blood of kings to do a lot of magic and stuff like that.
Yeah, it could be. I don't want to presume to know anybody's inspiration, but to me, the connection to Elizabeth Bathory is just like so obvious.
It seems very like of the like current writing team I know worked on the Veilguard, that probably does seem like right up their alley of something that they would reference in their writing style.
Yeah. Fair. All right. Well, that's all I've got for Zara Renata and all of the Archons. So, do you have any final thoughts?
I remember fighting this and being like, this is freaking crazy. It's not an easy fight either.
No, it's one of the more difficult ones. Yeah. I enjoyed it. I thought it was one of the more creative fights in the Veilguard.
Because she can like move through the blood.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks. I'm really interested in all the Archons. Where are we going next?
Non-chronological Archons. And then after that, we'll be talking about like all of the different, not all, but a lot of the different human tribes. So like the tribes of people that become the people groups we know, as well as
like
the ones
Syrian and
but
like
as
that.
well as the ones that stay kind of tribal, like the Avar and Chastened. So
all right, well, that's exciting. Well, thank you so much for bringing this research. It was a great time talking and a great episode, and thank you all for listening to the Dragon Age Lorecast. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Dragon Age Lorecast. If you have any lore questions, topics to cover, or side character suggestions, join the Cups Podcasting and More Discord server. It's the best place on the internet.
You can also support the podcast financially and ensure its continuation by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/DALorecast. If you enjoyed the show or learned something new today, please subscribe, leave us a review, rating, or comment, or join our Patreon.
The Dragon Age Lorecast is part of the Robots Radio podcasting network. If you enjoyed our intro or outro music, give a big shout out to Pipeman Studios. Until next time, look to the sky, the dawn will come.
When a wasteland detective and a vault girl cross paths, no criminal is safe.
You're both under arrest.
Don't move a muscle if you know what's good for you.
Based in Bethesda's Fallout series, follow Walter and Bunny as they traverse the Texas Commonwealth and New Vegas, busting big crime rings.
We'll need all we can to expand into Vegas territory.
And surviving anything the wasteland can throw at them.
It's him! It's the Mothman!
Featuring a series of nail-biting narratives and guest stars from across the Fallout community. It's anybody's guess what thrilling case is up next.
War never changes, does it, Bunny?
No, it certainly does not.
True Vault Escapades, a Fallout audio drama. Available anywhere you get podcasts.